Jakorian Bennett was running with the twos and the threes. Now he's going to be running with the Philadelphia Eagles after Monday night's trade. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 5th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Definitely appreciate you if you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. We appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. We shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you at 707-654-4693. Matter of fact, we'll close out the show hearing from you. A lot of really good calls, a lot of really good texts. We'll try to get as many in as possible, a lot of different subjects, including the big trade that took place Monday night between the Raiders and the Eagles, sending Jakorian Bennett to Philadelphia. So we'll do that in segment number 3. Segment number 2, I thought the first unofficial depth chart was actually going to be the biggest news and notes of the day, right? It's a game week, so you know that a depth chart is going to come out. So I was excited about that, anticipated it all day long, thought it was going to be great when it dropped. Well, there's some notable, moves on there. There's some things on there to talk about. So we'll do that in segment number 2. But it clearly was not the biggest news and notes of the day when it came to Monday. It's all about Jakorian Bennett being traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll go ahead and jump right into that right here in segment number 1. It was about an hour after my radio show got wrapped up, Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920. I was actually out on a little bit of a walk, wanted to get a little exercise in, right? Trying to get into midseason form myself, only to see the tweet from Adam Schefter saying, trade. Raiders are sending cornerback Jakorian Bennett to the Eagles in exchange for defensive tackle Thomas Booker IV, per sources. Again, that was Schefty from ESPN. And man, I was talking a lot about Jakorian Bennett. I've been talking about him running with the twos and threes. Got to talk to him last week. He was made available to the media, and I asked him about it. Like, how do you not take it personal? He said, hey, man, this is what we do. I'm here to compete. I'm trying to learn this new scheme. It's going to be fine. This is what I've been used to. Well, clearly he wasn't a good fit. We've talked about it. It wasn't really a fit with what Pete Carroll normally has as far as the cornerbacks. He hasn't been running with the ones after being the best cornerback that the Raiders had in 2024. And really, there's no other way to put it. He was hands down the best cornerback that they had, right? He was the guy that had a lot of PBUs. He didn't have any interceptions, but, on the money down, on third down, he came through like the first of the month. He was always making really big plays, and he got shut down because he had the torn labrum, had to go ahead and have that surgery. He told us about that earlier in this offseason. He said he was feeling really good, but he just wasn't a fit with what the Raiders want to do. We've seen guys like Eric Stokes. We've seen guys like DeCam Richardson. We've seen guys like Porter, right, from Iowa State. We've seen them running with the ones, and we've seen Jakorian all over the place, twos and threes, and didn't see much of him even on Saturday in the mock game at Allegiant Stadium. So his numbers, if you look at what he did in 2024 amongst cornerbacks with 450-plus snaps, 0 touchdowns allowed, which was first, 176 yards were allowed, second, 18 receptions allowed, which is third, 7 PBUs, 62.4 QBR, which is fifth, and 37 targets, 10th, and he's only 24 years old. So Philadelphia is getting a really good corner, and I'm sure they're going to turn him into someone special. He's got a change of scenery. He's got an opportunity to go out there and be a really good player, and I think that he will be, right? Anyone who's listened to this show for any amount of time knows that I'm a big Jakorian Bennett guy, right? I believe in him. I love his work ethic. I know that he's there to compete. I know that he had to get shut down last year, put on IR because of the torn labrum, had to go have the surgery. Know that his rookie year, was a little hit or miss, especially with the injuries that he suffered early on to the hamstring. Never seemed like he really gained that confidence in his rookie year, but last year was playing some really good ball. There was things that he needed to work on, and he talked about that during mandatory minicamp. Hey, I need to go get the ball. These guys are all about the ball. Got to get the balls. I had the PBUs. I didn't have any interceptions. So we'll see what he does in Philadelphia. But for the Raiders, they get defensive tackle Thomas Booker IV. He played 179 snaps last year for the Eagles, had 18 tackles, 2 TFLs, a sack, and a PBU. Added 10 stops, 3 pressures, and a 5.9% win rate. So he's a run stuffer. He's going to compete for a starting spot. He'll be there, obviously, with Adam Butler. He'll add some more depth to the defensive tackle room now that Christian Wilkins isn't there. But, a lot of people aren't super fired up about that trade, especially because Booker doesn't have some big-time numbers. But remember, there's a very deep defensive tackle room there in Philadelphia. So I reached out to my guy, Mike Gill. And the funny thing about this, Mike Gill's from 97.3 ESPN in Atlantic City, covers the Eagles really well. I had him on my radio show on Monday, just about the end of the show, as a matter of fact, to talk about the biggest strength, the biggest weakness, and the X factor for the Eagles. I've done that for every single team that's on the Raiders' schedule this year. And I just wish that, this trade had gone down about an hour ahead of time, right? Because it happened around 6 p.m. Pacific time. At least that's when we got the notification from Adam Schefter. And I had Mike Gill on around 4:45 Pacific time. So I just reached out to him. Hey, what can you tell me about Booker? What kind of trade is this? He says, I like him. He's undersized, but in limited snaps, always seem to be around in the backfield. He said, I like Booker, just too many defensive tackles, and Raider Nation will like Booker. He's in the backfield a lot. So I do trust Robbie Leonard. He's a hell of a defensive line coach, so I do believe that he'll be able to coach up Booker. And again, he's added depth to that defensive tackle room. I wish Jakorian Bennett nothing but success and good luck there in Philadelphia. I do think he's going to turn into a really good corner. He's just got the traits. He's got the speed, right? We know that, and he showed last year that he can get the PBUs. Now he's just got to go work on getting after the ball. This is also something to pay attention to, because a lot of people say, yeah, well, the Raiders could have got more, right? Well, maybe they couldn't have. Vinny Bonsignore from the RJ and Raider Nation Radio 920, he pointed out on Twitter, the Raiders have been shopping Jakorian Bennett for a couple weeks. The market never really materialized. So we could talk about you should have got more, you should have got more, you should have got more. But if you don't have a trade partner, then you can't make a trade. So the Eagles were willing to give up Thomas Booker the fourth. He's, like I said, he's in their defensive tackle room, and that room is very, very deep. So they felt like that was okay, and they needed a corner, so they got Bennett, and well, the Raiders got another guy in that D tackle room now. The thing about this deal, it's like all deals pending a physical, which normally is no big deal. But since Bennett had that torn labrum and multiple shoulder situations last year, all those dislocations, had the surgery, it's one of those that you just kind of wait and see. I think everything's going to be fine, but they've got to go through the physical to make sure, and then that's when they'll announce it and make it official. So the Raiders, you look at their cornerback room now behind with Jakorian Bennett now gone, and we'll take a look at the depth chart coming up in segment number 2. But Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, right, Darnay Holmes, those are your starting corners right now. Right? Stokes and Porter on the outside with Holmes playing that nickel role that was vacated by Nate Hobbs when he went to Green Bay. DKM Richardson, JT Woods. Don't sleep on JT Woods. I know a lot of people are like, who's this guy? Who's this JT Woods guy? He played at Baylor. I knew him really well at Baylor. I've actually had a couple chances to talk to him at Raiders practice. They have him playing corner, not safety. He was a safety at Baylor, but they have him playing corner, and he does fit the prototypical size that Pete Carroll looks for in corner. So pay attention to JT Woods as well. Greedy Vance is a guy that's right behind Darnay Holmes as far as a nickel corner. I think he's going to really be a pretty special player. I think the Raiders got pretty lucky being able to pick him up. Then they've got Caillou Blue Kelly, John Humphrey, and Sam Webb. So it's not a deep cornerback room. It's just not. But they're going to have to do what they can with what they have. And if they feel like that they have to go out and get a older guy, a veteran that may be out there that may cost some money, then I'm sure they'll make that move. But right now, that's who they're running with. And all those guys that I just mentioned all basically have the same body type. They're all the lengthy, got the long arms, got the, again, Seattle Seahawk, Legion of Boom type corners. And look, if there's one coach that can coach up that position better than anyone, it's going to be Pete Carroll. And I'm not saying that that's a justification of the trade, because, again, I'm a Jakorian Bennett guy, liked him a lot. I think he's going to be very successful in the league, but he just wasn't what they were looking for in that cornerback room. And, of course, there's a need there at the defensive tackle for Thomas, why they brought in Thomas Booker the fourth. There's a need there with that hole left by Christian Wilkins. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I know Raider Nation was not too pleased when they saw this trade. They saw this news on Twitter on Monday evening from Adam Schefter. So we'll take a look at the unofficial depth chart because it is a game week. We'll get our first chance to see some of these guys. Obviously, all these guys aren't going to play, but they're preparing for their first game on Thursday in Seattle, a return to Seattle for Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. But we'll talk about the unofficial depth chart and what stood out to me. We'll do that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know that this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. Plenty of shows are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. Yeah, they're rolling out a bunch of wild new stuff, and it's only wild in the best way. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues. It's a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. What I thought was going to be the segment number 1 conversation, the unofficial depth chart, ended up being segment number 2 because, well, it kind of got overshadowed by the trade of Jakorian Bennett to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is something that I look forward to. Matter of fact, I was looking forward to it all day on Monday, waiting for it to drop, knowing that it's a game week and we're going to get a depth chart, or at least an unofficial one, each and every week. Matter of fact, the rest of the way until the Raiders season gets wrapped up, the only time we won't get one is week 8, and that's because the Raiders have a bye. Now, again, this isn't the end-all, be-all. It's not set in stone. Doesn't mean that this is how it's going to be, but it's fun to look at this one at least because it's the first one. Now, we'll get them every week, as I mentioned. I won't go over every single one of them every single week because a lot of times it probably won't change, right? But if there's something that stands out, some significant move or a roster move that's happened, we'll obviously bring it to the table. But this is the first one, so let's go ahead and go over it, have a little bit of fun here. Let's look at the offense first. Obviously, quarterback Geno Smith, Aiden O'Connell's behind him with Cam Miller and the 3 deep. Running back Ashton Genty, this is where it gets interesting. Zamir White or Raheem Mostert, followed by Sincere McCormick. So we've been talking about the competition in the running back room, and I keep saying Zamir White or Sincere McCormick. It looks like it's Zamir White or Raheem Mostert. Those guys could be in a little bit of a battle as well. Zamir has looked really good so far in camp, and he's slimming down. Didn't have as much muscle as he had last year, and, it looks like it's a scheme that fits him as well. He's looked really explosive. Sincere McCormick has as well, but noted 4th on the depth chart here. And again, Zamir White or Raheem Mostert. You get that or. I remember when you see ors on the depth chart, normally that's college, right? You'll see a lot of ors on the college depth chart. You don't see it that much in the NFL, but you also have to remember who you're working with. You're working with Pete Carroll, right? These rosters and the depth on these rosters, you could be the first, then you'll be on the second team, then you'll be running with the third team. Then, it says there's going to be so many moves that are going to be made. So that was interesting to me, the running backs. But that was not to be outdone, right? The starting wide receivers, Dante Thornton Jr., the rookie, Jacoby Myers, and Trey Tucker. I don't think there's any big surprise there. It's a lot of speed between Thornton Jr. and Trey Tucker, and then Jacoby Myers is just Mr. Reliable, as we know. 2 deep, Colin Johnson behind Dante Thornton, Alex Bachman behind Myers, Jack Bech behind Trey Tucker. 3 deep, Justin Shorter. Then you've got Tommy Millott, and you've got Philip Dorsett. So that's the 3 deep at the wide receiver position. Again, I don't think there's any big surprises there, nothing that really stands out. So let's get to, how about we get to the tight end first? Brock Bowers, followed by Big Mike, followed by Ian Thomas, and then Kadir Ishmael, right? That's 4 deep in the tight end room that are really good. All 4 of those. You want to talk about a really strong room? That tight end room is strong. We know what Brock Bowers is bringing to the table. Michael Mayer has been looking really good all offseason. I think he's in line for a big season. And don't sleep on Ian Thomas. That dude could play as well. And he's 3rd on the depth chart. He could be your number 2 tight end on a lot of teams across the National Football League. But let's get to where it gets interesting, the offensive line. Obviously something we've been talking about quite a bit when it comes to Jackson Powers-Johnson. Your starting offensive line is as follows. Left tackle, Colton Miller. Left guard, Dylan Parham. Center, Jordan Meredith. Right guard, Jackson Powers-Johnson or Alex Kappa, DJ Glaze at the right tackle spot. So another or designation on this Raiders depth chart. That, to me, is pretty intriguing. We've been talking about JPJ. We've been talking about Jordan Meredith. Who's running with the 1s? Who's running with the 2s? Okay, they're both out there. Now JPJ's gone over to the right guard spot. Look, I still, at the end of the day, believe that Jordan Meredith will be the starting center and JPJ will be the starting right guard. They'll be on the field at the same time. I guess that's how I should have worded it. They'll be on the field at the same time because they're just looking for the best 5. But, man, having an or designation with Alex Kappa lets it be known that JPJ is just not going to be given any job. Just because you're, a second-round pick from a year ago, just because you're a fan favorite, just because you greeted Ashton Genty in the locker room and said, I'm your starting center, doesn't mean that you're going to earn a job or get a job. You're going to have to earn it. So to me, that's really intriguing. Now, look, Alex Kappa was not good last year. He really wasn't. Joe Burrow will tell you that. He almost got Joe Burrow killed, right? He just was not good. So I don't think that Alex Kappa is going to get that, but they did bring him in as a free agent, and they brought him in. This staff brought him in, not the previous staff like with JPJ. Again, don't think there's a world where JPJ is not a starter, but definitely think there's a world where JPJ is going to have to earn it. So that, to me, was pretty intriguing. The two deep when it comes to the offensive line, Charles Grant is behind Colton Miller, followed by Dalton Wagner. Three deep, I should say, left guard, Caleb Rogers is behind Dylan Parham, followed by Gottlieb A. We'll just put it like that. And then Antonio Mafia, matter of fact, who's a Chip Kelly guy. He's actually on the four deep. Jordan Meredith at the center spot. Behind him, he's got Will Putnam. Talked about JPJ or Alex Kappa. Gerard Hufford is behind him at the three spot. Thayer Munford is behind DJ Glaze. And then Parker Clements, that's the three deep at the right tackle spot. But the or classification, JPJ or Alex Kappa, and then Zamir White or Raheem Mostert. Defensively, not a big surprise with any of these, right? We'll start with the defensive line. Max Crosby, Jonah Laulu, Adam Butler, those are your two defensive tackles, and Malcolm Kuntz. So Kuntz and Crosby, you're starting edge rushers, Laulu and Butler on the defensive tackle spot. Tyree Wilson is behind Max. Zach Carter's behind Laulu. Liki Fotu is behind Butler. Charles Snowden behind Malcolm Kuntz. Ja Joyner, J.J. Pegues, Tank Booker, and Tonka Hemingway. That completes the three deep right there. Outside linebackers, starters, Jermaine Pratt, and then Landon Roberts is the middle linebacker, and then the other outside linebacker, Devin White. Jamal Adams is behind Pratt. Eichenberg is behind Roberts. Jalen Smith is behind Devin White. But you'll see a lot of mixing and matching with this defense and Patrick Graham. He's going to get very creative with the defense, and the way that they're setting this up, they have that opportunity to get really creative and put some of these guys like a Jamal Adams in a position to play at the outside linebacker spot. Even on Monday, we saw like three safeties on the field quite a bit. The cornerbacks, no Jakorian Bennett, even though he's still listed here on the two deep as far as the depth chart goes. Darnay Holmes is in the slot. He's taken over the spot that Nate House left when he went to the Green Bay Packers. Greedy Vance is behind him with Caillou Blue Kelly in the three spot. Darian Porter, Eric Stokes, those are the outside corners. And then DKM Richardson is behind Porter. Sam Webb behind him. Behind Stokes was Jakorian Bennett. Now it's JT Woods with John Humphrey in the three. Safeties, Isaiah Polamau, Chris Smith, Hudson Clark. That's a three deep at the free safety. Strong safety, Jeremy Chin, followed by Thomas Harper, Trey Taylor, and then Lonnie Johnson Jr., who we know broke his fibula on Saturday. Unfortunate there. So I don't think there's any big surprises when it comes to the defensive side of things, but wanted to make sure I went over it kind of quickly. And then just looking at the specialists, A.J. Cole, Daniel Carlson, we know about those guys. But the kick returns and punt returns are pretty interesting. Trey Tucker is the starter for both spots, kick return and punt return. So see him get pretty active. Sincere McCormick is on the two deep when it comes to the kick return. And then Ashton Genty in the two spot behind Trey Tucker as a punt returner. He's been working a lot on that at a training camp on punt returns. And as Tom McMahon told us the other day, we don't waste any reps. So Ashton Genty there at the two spot. Dylan Lobby is at the three spot for the kick return, followed by Tommy Malott. Alex Bachman at the three spot for the punt returner, followed by Tommy Malott as well. So there you go. That's the first unofficial depth chart for the Silver and Black as they prepare for a game coming up on Thursday versus Seattle Seahawks. One more quick note. I should have brought this up on Monday's show, and I didn't. The Raiders signed wide receiver Kaywan Baker and then tight end Albert O. They waived tight end Pat Conroy and wide receiver Kyle Phillips. This is something that they actually did pretty late on Sunday, and I just didn't bring it to the table, and I should have. So I wanted to make sure I got that in as well. But I also want to hear from you. So 707-654-4693. A lot of great feedback, calls, texts. We'll close out the show next, hearing from you. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor here, and that is Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And you'll be surprised when you start tracking your spending with Monarch. You'll see what you pay for subscriptions, takeout, rideshare. It all adds up. And, man, it adds up quick. Right now, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Promo code is LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Austin in Missouri, calling to talk about the trade of Jakorian Bennett to the Eagles, and he's trying to be the voice of reason for this trade for Raider Nation. Here he is, Austin in Missouri.
Good afternoon, Q. Good afternoon, Nation. Hey, I'm just calling here after the news of us doing the trade, and a lot of initial reaction online is, terrible move, tanking, I've seen was a comment. Let's just understand that Pete has like a blueprint for the corners that he wishes to have. He could have sat on the bench and 2 years from now not signed an extension and we would have got nothing for it. At least we got something at a position of need. Let's move on. Yes, the cornerback room isn't as strong maybe anymore after Jakorian is gone. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's see exactly what Pete Carroll and John Spytek are wanting to do. There's a blueprint, guys. This isn't Antonio Pierce. This is a proven system, proven coach, and a GM that at least has some background. So let's pump the brakes. We're still going to be all right. And the fact of, yes, it might be a little bit thinner in a room that was already not great. Like we're not missing out. So, Q, the name is Austin Ketchum. I'm from, unfortunately, Chiefs Kingdom here in Missouri. Long time listener. Wish we were still doing the new booty call, because I would qualify for that. But long time listener, first time caller. So maybe not the format, but I just thought that I would get that out there. Like, guys, just pump the brakes. So you have a good one. Let's go Raiders.
Austin, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And that's all that you can do. You got to trust that the front office and the coaching staff knows what they're doing. And if there's anybody who knows the defensive back position, it's going to be Pete Carroll. So you could trust that, but I understand why Raider Nation's upset about it. Again, I'm a Jakorian Bennett guy. I like him a lot. I think that he's going to have an opportunity to be a really good player in this league. I think the Eagles got a really good player. He just wasn't fitting with what they wanted. They weren't seeing what they wanted to see, or he just wasn't comfortable. And that's something that I talked about with Vinny on Monday, even at the facility. I kept saying he just doesn't look comfortable yet in their scheme. And I mean, at what point are they going to say, okay, what can we get from her? And the longer they hold on to him, it might end up being they just have to flat out release him. So they got something for him. I know that they didn't get a big name or some guy with some huge stats, so Raider Nation is not too happy about it. But, again, Pete Carroll's going to make this a very competitive environment, and you're going to have to fight for everything that you get in all your spots. And so Jakorian Bennett just didn't fit with what they wanted to do, and so they decided to move on. So that's all you can really do. We'll see sooner rather than later if this plays out and the Raiders come out looking smart, or if Jakorian Bennett goes to Philadelphia and balls out, and then it's like, man, what happened to the cornerbacks for the Raiders? Well, they let their best one go. We'll find out sooner rather than later, but thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Fred in Bakersfield. Said, Q, it's Fred from Bakersfield. Bold prediction time. Raiders go 12-5 this year and make it to the AFC Championship game, just like Washington last year. My reasons to say this is Geno, Genty, Chip Kelly, and Pete Carroll are all 3 times better than what we had last year, and those are some of the most important positions on the football team. 4 wins last year, times that by 3, turns it into 12 wins this year. I feel like the defense will be top 10 to 12 throughout the year, and the offense will average 27 points per game. This, of course, with no significant injuries. Q, let your fan out and let us know what is your prediction would be for the Raiders making the playoffs. Thanks for all that you do. Shout out Ari, Big Lincoln, Chantel Chan as well. Have a good day, Q. That's Fred in Bakersfield. Thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. 12-5 is bold. 12-5 is bold. I mean, that's a hell of a season. I would love to see them do that. I've been as a matter of fact, with 8 to 9 wins. But I'll tell you, man, and this is something I was talking about on my radio show on Monday, the moves that they're making, and this was before the Jakorian Bennett move, but the moves that they're making, I mean, it just feels like it all makes sense, right? And when I feel like this team is going to go out there and compete, that they're going to be in every single game. right? They're going to try to take the air out of the game. They're going to try to run the rock a lot. They're going to try to be in every game at the end and try to win it, at the end, steal some games. And so this team very well could end up being a team that makes a heck of a run. I just don't want to set myself or you up for failure like that, because that's a tall task. Going from 4 wins to 12 is tough. So if they get to 8 or 9 wins like I expect them to do, I think that's a great first year. Now, I know that's not going to make Raider Nation happy, but this team went 0-6 in the division last year. They've got to go at least 500 in the division, at least 500, at least 3-3. I'd like to see them do better than that, but they just can't get swept in the division. That gives themselves at least a chance. But thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Pretty Ricky Raider. He's calling as a new booty caller and has a question for me when it comes to Raiders road games. Here he is, Pretty Ricky Raider.
What's going on, Q? This is Pretty Ricky Raider from Jersey. First-time caller, new booty caller. What's going on? Just want to call you and let you know how much I appreciate what you're doing. The insight, the recap of what's going on in training camp, all the information, opinions. I love hearing it. Anytime I'm in the car solo, I try to tune in and knock out a podcast. I had a pretty unique question. So like I said, I'm from Jersey. I haven't had a chance to get out to Allegiant yet. Even before that, not to Oakland or the Coliseum or anything like that. I've been a fan since '87. I'll be 47 years old in a week or two. But I'm not that well traveled. So when they come to East Coast, I try to make sure I knock it out. Anytime there's a Giant and Jet game, I'm always there. This year, not as lucky. We hit the NFC East, but we're playing Philly and we're playing, the Commanders at home, at their homes, to say. So my question was, what would be? I'm hoping you're a little better traveled than I have been as far as Raider games that are not home games. So, we got week 1 up in New England. We got week 3, I believe it is, with the Commanders, and around Christmas in Philly. So I was just wondering your opinion, and you can open it up to other callers. Which one would be the best one to hit? I say that because, I want to hit one. I'm probably going to have the chance to hit one. I've heard some, semi-horror stories about Philly and going down to that Philly crowd and how they treat out-of-towners and everything. My son went to Drexel, the university. I've seen Philly during the Super Bowl times and, them tipping over cars and mess like that. But, I haven't heard too many good stories as far as, being an away crowd there. So that's the easiest way to travel to. But, D.C., Boston area, Foxborough to be exact. I was just wondering what your opinion's been. If you've been to any of these venues, what do you think should be, given the time of year? Philly in December is never fun. It's going to be like 10 degrees. I want to know your opinion. And you can open it up to any other callers, what would be, the best outing to take. So, once again, Q, appreciate you. Let me know what you are, okay? What you're thinking anyway. All right? Pretty Ricky Raider from Jersey signing out. Thanks a lot.
Pretty Ricky, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. So what we're doing is looking at 3 different East Coast games. I personally would pick week 3 versus the Commanders. I'm a big Jaden Daniels fan. I mean, a guy that I've talked about quite a bit on this show last year in the draft. Obviously, I was right. He ended up being a fantastic rookie quarterback. I think he's going to be just as good this year. I think it's going to be a huge test for the Raiders, week 3. I mean, they don't have an easy schedule to start with. They don't have a brutal schedule, but they don't have an easy schedule, right? I mean, you're going on the road in New England. They're going to be a better team than they were last year just because they have Mike Vrabel as their coach. Then they return to Allegiant Stadium for their season home opener against a playoff team in the Chargers. And then, boom, you go to D.C. and take on a team that went to the NFC Championship game. So, I mean, it's not going to be easy to start, but I would go to that one. And I hear that the stadium I haven't been to that stadium, but I hear it's really nice, or not the stadium, but like the experience is really nice. Like the fans are really fired up. There's a reason why they're trying to get a new stadium, but that's what I hear. Like I said, haven't been there, but if I had to pick an East Coast game, I wouldn't pick Philadelphia in December because it's going to be cold, right? I wouldn't pick New England because I just don't think I'd want to go to New England. So mine would be going to the Commanders week 3 in D.C., but that's me. So, if Raider Nation wants to chime in on that and give you their thoughts, I'm sure there's plenty of Raider Nation that's been to all those or live in the area and can tell you more about those different stadiums. So we'll definitely get those calls and texts at 707-654-4693. But thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider Murray. What's up, Q? Raider Murray here. Just a quick thought since everyone's been talking about the cornerback battle. Heard some great things about Greedy Vance, obviously DCam and Eric Stokes as well, and our rookie Darian Porter. But where does that leave JB? Obviously coming off injury, but just want you to get your thoughts on all this and whether or not JB is getting traded or just collateral damage from the new staff. Thanks for everything you do for Raider Nation. Q and Ari, keep doing your thing. P.S. I'll be in Seattle Thursday with my oldest son, hoping to see a preseason win. It'll be his first game ever. So Raider Murray, that was a holdover text from yesterday, and obviously you know the answer to that already. JB has been traded. But to the point, and I wanted to make sure to still get this text on, because DCAM has been playing really well. And I know that he didn't have a very good rookie year, but the thing I kept saying about him is he got a lot of burn. And if someone is happy about Pete Carroll arriving, it should be DCAM, because he absolutely fits the description of a Pete Carroll type corner, right? He's long and he's fast, and he got all those reps his rookie year. So where JB didn't like to see Pete Carroll, not saying he didn't like him, but obviously he doesn't fit the description of a Pete Carroll cornerback. DCAM does. Eric Stokes has been looking really good at practice. He was a former first-round pick. Think about that. His whole thing has been injuries. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So if he could stay healthy, and I know it's a big if, I always talk about availability, all of a sudden you have some really good corners. And then they have some, what they feel is really good corners behind them as well. Now, we'll start to see in the preseason games what it looks like, and they might get into a situation where they're like, you know what, we've got to go outside the building and bring someone else in. Or they might think that they'll have just enough to get it done with what they have in the room at this stage of the game. But thanks so much, and enjoy the game on Thursday. Hopefully the Raiders get a win, or at least entertain you, since it's a preseason game. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Jeremy from the 801. He's calling to talk about a few of the subjects that we have to talk about here on the show lately. Here he is, Jeremy from the 801.
Hey, Q, this is Jeremy calling out of the 801. Just wanted to give my thoughts on a couple things you've talked about. Listening to the show on Monday, heard the comments about Max lining up on special teams. Made me think of some special plays Myles Garrett made last year. I think it was last week of the season against the Colts. Blocked field goal that got taken to the house. So thought of that. And one other thing I wanted to mention is, coming in with Chip Kelly, I think there's a lot of optimism to be had. You look at Geno last year, offensive coordinator's now fired. I think that them finishing middle of the pack in red zone offense, I've got pretty high hopes. If Geno can make a connection here with Chip, I think there's going to be a lot of touchdowns and a little bit more efficiency than what they saw last year. And also, one more thing. You look at Ohio State last year, two guys getting a lot of end arounds with like Buka now with the Bucks, and then Jeremy Smith, who's a baller from day one, but a lot of end arounds. So I don't know, Trey Tucker might be able to get a couple of those, or maybe Jack Besh if that's something that he likes. But I know it's not as common as in the NFL, but I still think it might be something to keep an eye out for. I know Jeremy Smith took one 20 yards to the house, so maybe we can get lucky and grab one of those. Thanks for all you do. Just win, baby.
Jeremy, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you, and good subjects that you bring up. Max is a protector on field goal attempts. It's good with me, right? Clearly it's good with Max. He's out there. The only thing about it is you just don't want to get him hurt. You don't want to set him up, and I don't know if another team sees Max out there on field goal protect. Like, I don't know if they got some guy that's really trying to make a name for himself. He goes after, I don't want to say goes after Max like in a dirty way, but guys get overzealous and try to make bigger plays and try to prove a point and whatever. And so you don't want to set Max up for failure, but it does look like that they're very interested and intrigued by him being out there as a protector. Because again, as Tom McMahon told us, they don't waste reps. As far as Geno Smith and the offense goes, I feel really good about the direction that they are going with Chip Kelly because he's creative. And I think there's a lot of playmakers on this offense. Obviously, it's going to be a run-heavy team. But outside of that, they have plenty of playmakers. We talked about it here on the show. But Geno's got to protect the ball, especially in the red zone, right? He struggled with that a lot last year. He had a red zone pick on Monday's practice. Matter of fact, Eric Stokes got him on Monday. DCAM got him last week in the red zone, in the end zone. So you can't have that. You have to be able to come away with points. You want to come away with a touchdown, but you got to come away with points, right? There's no way that you could turn the ball over in the red zone, but that was his big bugaboo in Seattle last year. So he's got to make better decisions in the red zone. But the corners did make some plays. And like I said, Eric Stokes made a play on Monday in the end zone. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. I just got time for a couple more of this text from Raider Gotham in New Jersey. What's up, Q? It's Raider Gotham. One question. Are you surprised about the JB trade? It feels like deja vu when trading our best defensive back to the Eagles. Keep up the good work and go Raiders. That's Raider Gotham in New Jersey. I'm assuming that you're talking about the best cornerback going to the Eagles. I'm assuming you're talking about Nnamdi when he went as a as a free agent, that one hurt my feelings because I was a big Namdi fan. Didn't like to see that, but they obviously used him incorrectly when he got there. He was never the same after that. I'm surprised by the trade that it happened already. I'm not surprised that he got traded. I'm surprised it happened already. I'm surprised that they didn't wait until, a game or 2 preseason games to see him out there and see if they like what they see. But again, Vinny said that they've been shopping him for a couple weeks and there was no market for him. There was no interest at a high level. So maybe they felt like the longer they held on to him, the worse it was going to be, and they were going to end up having to just flat out release him and not get anything for him. So I guess that's the overall thinking there. But it is, kind of a tough pill to swallow, especially when you feel like he's going to go to Philadelphia and probably be really good, right? I mean, because that's just kind of what happens. They have a really good defense there anyway, and a really good defensive line that can get to the quarterback. So it's going to make his job that much easier. And again, he'll probably be a better fit, and he has a chance to now, get a new change of scenery. He's a good dude. He's a hard worker, that's for sure. So it's not like he's a troublemaker or a bad guy. Definitely a really good dude, and definitely wish him all the best. We'll close out with a call from Raider X. He's calling to talk about the Raiders mock game, Greg Papa, and a little bit more. Here he is, Raider X.
Hey, Q, this is Raider X. I just wanted to touch bases after this great weekend and all the excitement. Saw some clips over the Raiders scrimmage. Wow, so sharp, so much energy, so much production. Just a lot of eyes on the Raider Nation. I love to see the trajectory going up. It's just something to celebrate. On a more serious note, I just really wanted to thank you for keeping it real and really recognizing and keeping us on track, especially humanizing us all in regards to your recognition of Greg Papa's recent communication. I know his situation. I know his standing right now with the Raider Nation. But again, like you said, I'm a little older in the tooth, and that touchdown Raiders yell and chant will forever live with me, and so will Greg Papa and his broadcast. So just like Bill King. But anyways, just really, really appreciate the overall leadership and the humanity that you provide to this show and the Raider Nation. Thank you, Raider X out.
X-Man, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, man, I'll always do my best to recognize the human side of things, regardless of where a person's standing might be with the team. Papa to me is a special dude. Papa to a lot of Raider Nation is a special dude just for all the years that, he was on the call for the silver and black and everything that he meant. And I know that, he's across the bay with the 49ers now, but when you're battling that C word, man, I don't care what colors you're wearing, right? That's tough, man. It's a tough pill to swallow. And like I said, when I saw that news on Friday when I was at Raiders practice, matter of fact, one of the first people I went and said something to was Kirk Morrison. I was like, man, my guy, Greg Papa, man, he just made this announcement, and that it kind of just took the wind out of my sails, right? It's just it's like getting hit in your belly, and then you're trying to get your air back in. You when they say, oh, he got the wind knocked out of him, I feel like the wind got knocked out of me when that happened, and when he made that announcement on Twitter on Friday. So definitely prayers and thoughts are with Greg Papa and his family as he battles with cancer. Thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. And that's going to do it for today's show. We'll get to talk to Pete Carroll today. We'll be back at practice. I know fans were supposed to be allowed to be in practice today, but because of the air quality, they're going to be back inside again. So there's going to be no fans. All that got canceled. There's some big fires going on, I believe, in Santa Barbara. And so the whole skyline in Vegas and Henderson was so just dirty and cloudy and smoky on Monday. So they don't want to get those players out there in that kind of air quality. So they're going to take it inside again today. So no fans going to be at practice, but sooner rather than later, you'll actually be able to see them in a game starting on Thursday when it comes down to the first preseason game. So we get to talk to Pete Carroll. We'll talk to him about the trade at JB and, see what else that he's got cooking, and we'll see what practice looks like today as they prepare for the Seattle Seahawks coming up on Thursday. So whatever we get good from that, definitely bring back to the show on tomorrow. We'll have plenty of news and notes, more calls and texts, and plenty more conversation here on the show. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.